It's Drybear. The Summer Games Fest kicked off with its intro production, its presentation, going over all the announcements and all the cool things happening this summer. So in case you missed the event, I'm going to recap everything that we saw during the presentation. Now keep in mind, a lot of these are rehashing of old announcements or just general updates or some games that we've known about for a very long time, but we finally got a release date for them. Starting with LEGO Horizon Adventure, which is based on the Horizon IP, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Horizon Forbidden West. It's getting a LEGO adaptation that will be 2-player co-op and be an adventure game that you can play on your couch with your family or friends and just have a good time with. So if you like the Horizon IP and you like these kind of LEGO games, then this one is on the horizon. No More Room in Hell 2 is an 8-player co-op permadeath challenge run, which seems to have some kind of extraction elements to it. This is a sequel to the original No More Room in Hell, and this one is coming out in early access in Halloween. It seems to have some really great graphics, a ton of fun implementation, and will probably be a really good time around Halloween time. For Harry Potter fans, there's going to be a Quidditch Champions kind of this like more of I guess it would be like a claymation animation or artistic style, but it's focused on the game of Quidditch. And this one is coming out September 3rd and should be at least as long as it runs and functions well, it's probably going to be a good time, especially if you're a huge fan of Harry Potter and you just wanted to play a sports game that's more based on that universe. Cuff Bust is a multiplayer game. It's kind of like a like, but this one is a solo developer that actually developed a game that I think a lot of people may know of, an indie game called Choo Choo Charles. It's a super fun watch, super fun game. It's like a couple hours long, and you can actually watch some of the YouTube videos of the solo dev learning the process of development as he was making and developing Choo Choo Charles. So it's very cool to see him move from a single player game, which is a whole other beast, from multiplayer, especially synchronized multiplayer, jumping into a game like this with Cuff Bust. Now at first glance, it seems more like a YouTuber or content creator style game. There's going to be a lot of moments for a lot of excited yells and exclamations, but you probably will have a good time with this, and I would support the dev. It seems like he's working hard and learning a lot about the industry. We also got a very small sneak peek at Star Wars Outlaws. Now there's going to be some Ubisoft happenings next week, and I'm guessing we're going to see some Star Wars Outlaws next week, especially for Steam Next, and as the Summerfest continues, but we got a little bit of the gameplay here, and it is shaping up to be a pretty interesting game. It seems like there's a lot of really interesting mechanics and a little bit more of a fleshed out world. And this one, I think, if they can actually deliver on what they presented, will actually be a fantastic game and should be really fun to play. Again, especially if you're a big fan of the Star Wars universe. If you've ever played a game called Gris, G-R-I-S, it is one of the most beautiful games. It's about the stages of grief and overcoming grief, anger, acceptance, despair, all of those things. It's one of the most beautifully animated and presented games on the planet. And that studio, the original creator of Grease, is coming back with another title called Neva, which is following the story of this woman and her wolf companion, and looks to be just as gorgeous and beautiful. Stunning visuals, lots of really cool animations. So this is definitely one to look out for later this year. The wait is finally over. We're finally getting a Sid Meier's Civilization 7. The last one was a huge jump forward for the franchise series and even for the 4X genre in general. Civ 6 was huge for it, and Civ 7 is shaping up to look like a much bigger jump for that as well. So if you're a 4X fan, or you're a strategy fan, or you like these political kind of games, this is definitely one to pay attention to. It seems like they've been working really hard on it for a long time, and we even got a little bit of gameplay in there as well. So if you follow 4Axis or you play Civ games, this is definitely one to look forward to. It looks like we're not going to get too much more this year, maybe 1 or 2 more beats, marketing beats throughout the year, but we're looking more at next year for Civ 7. Next, we got another trailer for the upcoming Black Myth Wukong, which follows the story of Sun Wukong in Chinese mythology, saving the world, fighting giants, that sort of thing. And this game is easily going to be either one of the best games of the entire year, or at least in recent memory, or one of the biggest disappointments, because this game still, every single time we get a new update on it, looks more and more incredible. The graphics are ridiculous. So if this thing runs even on like the most modern hardware, and it looks even 80% as good as we've seen in the trailers, this game is going to be absolutely incredible. It seems like the gameplay mechanics are there. They've had to delay it a few times, as is per the usual formula, but this one is coming out August 20th this year. So if they deliver and things are great, this is going to be an awesome game to punch mark into the year. It seems like the VR game Asgard's Wrath did well enough to justify a sequel. We're getting Asgard's Wrath 2. I did a poll recently asking if people actually have VR sets. It doesn't seem like it's fully adopted yet, but the people that have VR have told me so many great things about Asgard's Wrath, so I'm excited to see another game coming out for that. Once Human, the sci-fi third-person shooter MMO, is finally getting a release date, July 9th, 2024, so coming up in just a month. We played a bunch of this year. It's actually looking really, really strong. If you like building, there's like eight-player co-op, 4-player co-op, open world exploration. It's more of like, basically if PUBG was an MMO kind of feel, or if H1Z1 was an MMO. It's got a really cool sci-fi kind of cinema style presentation to it and should be a really good time. I've really enjoyed the betas playing those as well, so look out for this one for July 9th. Space Marine 2 is on the horizon. It's coming closer and closer. Space Marine 1 was an excellent like 8-hour third-person action game set in the Warhammer 40k universe in 40k, so post all the Horus Heresy nonsense, and you play as an Ultramarine in that process. And the second game is looking to like be even better than the first, and on top of that, it's going to be 3-player co-op. The Persona devs at Atlas have been hard at work on their next title, which is called Metaphor. It looks like it's just as buzzy and vibey as the Persona vibe that you come from that as well. And this one has a lot of transformations, transforming into these archetypes, being able to generate new powers, and how that develops into the story. So if you're a huge fan of Atlas and their work and Persona games, then look out for Metaphor, which is coming soon. A lot of people love the Arkham series of games. It really brings the Gotham and Batman world to life, and they've all been, most of them have been very good. And they did announce a new Arkham game, though unfortunately this one is actually going to be VR focused. Though admittedly the quality seems to be really high, and I'm sure if you have a setup for this, it's going to be super fun. But this one is called Batman or Arkham Batman Shadow. We got to see a little bit of Tears of Metal, which is a co-op roguelike game. Very simple and straightforward, kind of medieval olden style combat, but it seems to be real gritty and fun and snappy. So if you're looking for a new roguelike to play, especially one that has co-op, which not all of them do, you'll be able to pick this one up soon. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero has got a release date October 11th of this year, so it's coming here just in the fall, just before the winter starts, and this one looks just as good as the previous. If you've liked any of the previous DBZ games, either the RPGs or even the fighting games, I think this one is the one to look forward to. Delta Force Hawk Ops does look really cool. They even showed off that they got the license for Black Hawk Down, which means they're going to have a special mission that allows you to play through the portions of the movie that were there, which could end up being really cool or could end up being kind of meh. We'll just have to see how it turns out. Overall, seems like a pretty decent shooter. This is early development footage, and we'll probably want to just keep our eye on this one just to see how it turns out over the coming months or towards the end of the year, but it does show promise if you're interested. Battle Crush is a mobile and a Steam play game. This seems to have like a lot of different elements to it, as far as like, obviously since it's going to be on Switch with the 3-core processor, we're also going to be on mobile, so limited in what they can do processing wise, but overall seems really cool. It does seem to have like some elements of Smash Bros, like that kind of style fighting with a little bit of a party system on top of it. Mech games historically have had a hard time breaking even in the cost that they've developed it. But MechaBreak does look really, really cool. This one is very Gundam adjacent, straight on the money with that one. So if you've been missing out on some Gundam vibes and having that feeling, even after AC with Armored Core from FromSoft being recently, and then recent like year or two, we'll be able to get some more of this here. So look forward to MechaBreak coming. We also got an announcement from Blumhouse, the Five Nights at Freddy IP owners. They mentioned that they want to, or they are starting a kind of conglomerate publishing house for solo and small group indie developers focused primarily on horror games. And of the ones you've seen here, I've actually played some of these, and they're actually insanely good horror indie games that you want to pick up for storytelling. So the fact that they're getting a little more backing and support to help get their games out to more people is really, really cool. So pay attention to Project C from Blumhouse, and some of the games in here I can vouch for are very, very good. So that's awesome to see them getting into that kind of handshake deal where people who started indie can help others do the same. In case you've been missing some Power Rangers action, or maybe even some side-scrolling beat-em-ups, like Double Dragon back in the day, then this game is coming out. This is Power Rangers Rita's Revenge, or actually Rita's Rewind for Power Rangers. This one looks like a good time too. Deer and Boy seems like a really heartfelt, almost Inside-like presentation of a deer and a boy out in the woods, and this one can be wishlisted now. We got an update on Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and if you haven't played the first one, you absolutely need to. It's a story of Henry, and there's so many small moments that I love about the first game that you'll want to get into, that you'll want to have in your fresh memory for this one. This one's coming by the end of 2024, they said, but the first one was so incredible that I'm sure the second one is just going to be as good, if not much better. We got an updated trailer for Slitterhead and a release date of November 8th, 2024, and this one I'm really looking forward to as well. This is one from one of the original developers of the Silent Hill franchise, and he has kind of branched off to go into indie again to focus on making games. And coming from a background of game development myself, I can totally understand the desire to just have creative freedom and focus more on the game itself rather than the business aspects of a much larger studio. So if you're looking forward to Slitterhead and you like Silent Hill and those kind of horror games, then this one's coming in November. Didn't think I'd add it to the list, but we got another Killer Bean before we got GTA 6. So here we are, another Killer Bean title. Yes, this is where a lot of the memes come from. This one looks like it's goofy and fun and is coming soon. The devs behind beloved games like Fury, which has one of the best and most banger soundtracks ever made in gaming, is coming out with a game called Cairn. And this one is a representative story about people who risk their lives to climb the highest mountains in the world, where most of them end up meeting their end by freezing to death or starving to death or something like that. So this one seems like a very nitty-gritty experience style climbing game with a lot of like heart-racing moments. And you know, if it's from these devs, it's going to have a lot of feeling and a lot of passion poured into it. So this one seems to be pretty exciting. We're getting another title from Annapurna, the Stanley Parable devs. They have just taken a huge 180 and gone into a much different direction with this one here. This one is called Wanderstop, and you take care of this almost like lackadaisical, multicolored vibe coffee shop or tea shop that you're taking care of, but there are a little bit of subtle hints that something else is going on beneath the surface. The main character seems to have PTSD for some reason, and we don't know. And if it's from the Stanley Parable dev, then we know there's going to be a lot of twists and turns along the way. Bandai Namco announced Awakening, or Unknown 9 Awakening. This one seems to be like it could be hit or miss depending on how well it's implemented and delivered. It does seem like an original, which could be pretty cool, but just keep your eyes open for another Bandai Namco game. This one could be awesome, or it could be a fall flat. We'll just have to wait and see. We got another trailer for Enoitra coming this summer, and God, I feel so bad for these devs. They originally targeting, I think, June, but then this was before the Shadow of the Erdtree timeline was announced, and so it was announced like the same exact day. So they ended up moving their timeline, and then Black Myth Wukong got announced around the same time. So like a lot of their competitors are just kind of taking up the summer, but this one is coming soon. This one does look really cool, and it has more of a Bloodborne vibe as far as the like weapon system and the ability system and all that, and overall just seems like it's going to be a good time if you're a Souls-like fan. The first Descendant is a shooter game that has been on the horizon for quite a while. It has had a bunch of stress tests and betas that people have had mixed reactions to, but a lot of people seem to really like the graphics and the core gameplay of it. So it means that if they've been hard at work over these last few months, improving based on player feedback from the beta, First Descendant is going to be a really awesome game to play. And as of Summer Game Fest, we have a release date, July 2nd, so just a few weeks away. First Descendant is coming to PC and both consoles, both main consoles with PlayStation and Xbox. Outer Sloth, the Amongus devs have done the same thing we've talked about a little bit today, starting a publishing house for indie developers to help them get their games out. So there's a bunch of really cool indie games as part of Outer Sloth's movement to help support them. And I think a lot of what's happening now in the AAA or quadruple A space for gaming has pushed people towards indie as people re-find and rediscover their passion for games and creativity through this medium. So it helps support a lot of these indie devs that are finding funding and support through Outer Sloth. There's also going to be an Among Us TV show, which the trailer they showed had absolutely no talking at all. It was just sound effects. What? Yeah, that's coming. If you're a fan of Sonic, Shadow Sonic Generations is on the way. This is basically a remaster of all of the most beloved levels and experiences from the Sonic franchise going back quite a while. So if you're a fan of Shadow, or you're a fan of Sonic, or the way their gameplay usually plays out, and some of the levels you've had to experience from olden times, pay attention to Sonic Shadow Generations, as that one is coming. Dune Awakening, the upcoming MMO, is set in the Dune universe. Got another trailer. No date on this one specifically. The trailer looks great. I haven't played the early access of this one just yet. It's on my list to get to once we have the time, but I really want to take a look at it. Again, the trailer looks good. We don't really have much gameplay on this just yet, other than the early looks we've seen from around the internet, but you can sign up for early access for this right now if you are interested, and hopefully we'll get more and more throughout the year. You wouldn't be able to tell it from the trailer, but this is actually an RTS. It's a real-time, asynchronous, you know, like real-time strategy, being able to play that way. The trailer looks awesome. It's oozing style and lots of really vibrant colors and explosion and action. And overall, I think we are kind of underserved in the RTS market just because it's not really a hugely popular genre, so it doesn't really attract a lot of developers. And a lot of times the developers that put their heart into these games end up breaking even or even losing money on these kind of games. So it's cool to see real-time strategy still being represented in such a cool and awesome way. This one is Battle Aces. You can wishlist it now, and they have it listed as coming soon. The finals blew up in popularity, this kind of BR shooter experience that you get from this game. They're adding in a new ranked mode, they're adding in new maps, new characters, a bunch of new content. So if you've played the finals and have kind of taken a break, soon is a very good time to return to the game. And if you're looking for a new shooter to play, this one actually feels great. And if you get a lot of people playing it, it is a ton of fun. Alan Wake 2 is getting a hard copy for people that collect hard copies for games. Typically now most people do digital, but there are some very big collector fans that like having hard copies. They have a deluxe edition and a normal edition for Alan Wake 2 if you want to put it to your shelf or on display, or you just like having hard copies of games. They also announced a DLC for Alan Wake 2, which dives into what is essentially their spooky door version, their kind of like Twilight Zone style part of the game. And this is all not going to be like full canon. You play one of the waitresses in the game, and it has a whole bunch of makeshift scenarios inside of the Alan Wake 2 universe, with some cameos possibly for some Control characters. So if you're a big fan of Remedy, Control, or Alan Wake 2, you're going to want to check out the DLC for Alan Wake 2, and of course the hard copy will be coming available as well. New World's Eternum expansion is just around the corner. This one has a bunch of new features in it. If you're still playing New World, this one does look like a nice bump up from the core experience that we've had so far. They just added mounts last year, so things are kind of coming together for New World if you're into it. And with this expansion, they are also including a solo-only experience, which you can play on console or on PC, which means if you just want to play this as almost like an open world RPG, where you just go around and level up and collect things and mine and fight bosses and do dungeons, there's a solo-only version of the game that will be available. Dark and Darker has made so many changes in the last year or so. It was one of the most anticipated games last year as this old school dungeon crawler experience, permadeath extraction style, fantasy style game. However, they ran into a bunch of trouble because two of the employees that worked previously at Nexon ended up moving away, and that got into some legal trouble, which got them removed from Steam. So their announcement with Summer Games Fest is that they are now on Steam again. It seems they've kind of cleared whatever legal restrictions they had. And personally for me, I love Dark and Darker, but I've been disappointed with the lack of content they've been adding to the game over the last year or so. I felt like around now, or even towards the end of this year, we would have tons of new bosses, 10 new areas, crazy amounts of expansions. They've added classes, a whole bunch of new stuff, and there is a new Frost Mountain area with Yetis and things like that. So if you want to get into Dark and Darker, it's available on Steam, and it is free to play now, though rather than having the purchase price, they do have a lot of microtransactions, and their high roller gameplay, which is their ranked mode, does have some pay restrictions as well. So if you want to just get into the game and play, it is free on Steam right now. Path of the Goddess has a release date of July 19th. If you really like this art style and this hack and slash gameplay, we finally have a release date of July 19th. Hyperlight Breaker is going to be available for early access at the end of the summer. summer. We don't know exactly when, but they said by the end of the summer, early access will be available. And what's great about this one is you can actually play this one campaign co-op, which you don't always get to do with these kind of games. This one does look like it's going to be an excellent vibe. So if you're looking for a really cool campaign hack and slash game to play, look out for Hyper Light Breaker early access later this summer. Party Animals had an online demo over a year ago, I think. It feels like it's been at least a year, and this one is coming soon, actually. Quite a process there. But this one is kind of like Gang Beasts party time. It looks like they're adding a bunch new, not just like being able to grab people and throw them off and have this goofy time with a bunch of animals, but they actually have some like racing games they showed off, which weren't in the demo, and some other mini party games that you might be able to play as well. This one was a ton of fun, especially to stream or have a group of people around you when you're playing it. It is absolutely hilarious, so look out for Party Animals. Skate got more of an update. We still don't know exactly when it's coming, and they even had some of these like live action teaser trailers that were very like against M Corp and against the Corpos and that kind of thing. They had some gameplay teaser and some in-engine footage that they showed off as well, and it does look cool. It has been a while since we've had a really cool skate game that has a little bit more gripping aspect to it, and skate seems to be exactly on that bullet board. So if we hit that target and we make skate kind of come together, I think it's going to be really awesome. They say just sign up, it's coming at some point. I covered this about 2 months ago, but Palworld is finally getting its first major update, a brand new island, a bunch of new pals, a 3v3 arena PvP game mode, new raids, new buildings, new construction, all of that stuff. So if you played Palworld on its onset, a lot of people did. It was a huge release for many people. Then look forward to June 27th. In just a few weeks, Palworld's going to have its first major content update with a bunch of stuff added to it. I personally hope there's a lot of quality of life in it as well. As much as I love Palworld, I think there's some really kind of very easy low-hanging fruit for polish that they could put into the game as well. But either way, it's great to have great content added to the game, new content, new places to go, new pals to capture, and new subspecies as well. And we'll see how the 3v3 arena mode turns out. And if you're a fan of Valorant and you play primarily on consoles, Valorant is finally coming to console, which is going to be super interesting to see how they handle anti-cheat and things like that for that platform specifically. But yeah, if you like Valorant or those kind of competitive, even shooters, then this is going to be your opportunity to play on console from your couch. And one of my personal favorites, Monster Hunter Wilds, the next big installment in Monster Hunter since Rise. And a lot of people ended up skipping Rise because they prefer the more realistic version that was Monster Hunter World or even Generations or Ultimate, that kind of thing. So having this come forward next year, 2025, is super exciting. They confirmed in this presentation that it is going to be simulcast or simul release, which means that it's not going to be delayed. It's going to be console and PC at the exact same time. So everyone should be able to play together when Wilds comes out. They also teased some new monsters that we haven't seen in the series either at all or not in a very long time, so several titles back in the series. And they even had some teasers on some of the endgame, potentially Black Dragons that may be coming in this as well. And overall looks great. We're going to get some mounted interactions and combat. And they also wanted this one to feel a lot more open world rather than more of the instanced version they've had for Monster Hunter for a very long time. And they rounded it out with Phantom Blade Zero, another Souls-like game, but this one looks gritty and absolutely awesome. They said they'll have a demo at some point this year, but check out Phantom Blade Zero. It does look extremely promising overall. The trailer that they showed was really good, really high quality. The combat seems to be really crisp, and I can't wait to play the demo. And there you go. I did my best to keep this as short as possible, even though it was a 2-hour presentation with tons of non-stop showings and presentations there. So that is the Summer Games Fest opening act, showing all the announcements for the new games and what's on the horizon. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.